Steven Universe and all associated images are property of Cartoon Network, Rebecca Sugar, and any and all other respective owners. I don't know them all. All footage in this video has been used for the purpose of critique parody under fair use. Please support the official release. My previous theory video was about romantic relationships, so I figured I'd change stuff up this week by talking about romantic relationships. Yeah, not a whole lot of variety lately. The hiatus is starting to get to me a little bit. That said, though, this is a rather more serious theory than last week, so rest assured this isn't going to be a repeat of that. Today we're talking about Jasper, who I think is by far one of the most interesting characters in the show so far, in part because we don't know a ton about her yet and there's a lot of room for speculation, but in part because she is genuinely interesting. It's said, amongst other homeworld gems, that Jasper came out of the ground fighting for her diamond because of what was done to her diamond, that being Pink Diamond, during the war. It's said that she came out of the ground with her weapon already in place, could take down entire battalions of crystal gems, and she even said herself that she was aware of Rose and her tactics and didn't seem all that concerned by them, just said that she respected them. And now she's part of Yellow Diamond's army, the army of the military leader of Homeworld, despite the fact that all the other Jaspers from her kindergarten ended up in Blues Court. Everything about Jasper's story points to her life having been about nothing but fighting, and she seems to have a certain amount of pride as a fighter when she criticizes Ruby and Sapphire for fusing back into Garnet in order to fight her. She flat out states that she sees such tactics as tactics for the weak and implies that she wouldn't pursue such tactics herself, and yet she does. As soon as she begins to feel overwhelmed by the crystal gems, she fuses with Lapis Lazuli into Malachite in order to even up the score, or so that's how it appears. While I think that was definitely part of her motivation, I put forth here today that a large part of her motivation for creating Malachite with Lapis, maybe even without Jasper realizing it at the time, was to form a bond with another person. I put forth here today that Jasper has never had a strong bond with anyone else. The other gems from her kindergarten were not nearly as powerful as she was, so she had to rely on herself primarily in combat during the war, and since then she has risen through the ranks as a soldier through her own deeds, never leaning on anybody else, never accepting support from anybody else. And yet we have seen multiple times that gems are social beings, for whatever reason. They have evolved to be social beings. And so of course, Jasper, like practically any other gem, would long for a real connection, would long for a strong bond, a real relationship with another person, another gem. And yet she finds herself ill-equipped to form such a relationship because she never had the chance to learn how. Fusion to her, something that she was literally just reminded was possible by the existence of Garnet, might have, subconsciously, seemed like the answer to this problem. She could form a relationship with another gem by fusing with them, even if that relationship did end up being a temporary one. And then that relationship, aka Malachite, proved not to be temporary. Lapis may have had her own nefarious reasons for doing so, but she wouldn't allow Jasper to leave. She made Jasper feel like that bond was a permanent one, which goes a long way towards explaining why Jasper was so desperate to recreate Malachite in the episode Alone at Sea. She finally thought that she had forged a permanent bond with another gem, and then she had it ripped away from her. And I'm not saying that Malachite was a good thing, that relationship was a good thing for either party. It most certainly wasn't, but I can understand why it felt like a good thing to Jasper, even though Jasper was being harmed by the relationship. And it makes me wonder, is all of this foreshadowing that Jasper is going to end up in a lasting relationship with another gem, that her heel-face turn to become an ally to the crystal gems that I've been theorizing about and anticipating now for so long is going to hinge on that relationship? And if so, who is that other gem? The way I see it, we have a couple of possibilities. There is, of course, Lapis. It is possible that the two of them could grow as characters so much that the two of them are able to forge a healthy relationship, but I don't think that's going to happen. At least not within the time that the show has left. Jasper and Lapis's relationship as Malachite was a huge mess, and while they are going to have to sort through that at least a little bit, sorting through all of it to the point that they're able to form a similar relationship without any of the baggage is going to take a lot longer. There is also Pearl as a possibility. We already know that Pearl is attracted to a certain type, and Jasper certainly fits that type. And I did mention back in my Jasper Redemption video that I do see the potential for them to have very compatible personalities. You can go back and rewatch that for a little bit more detail. Or there's another possibility, one that's a lot more recent, and this actually harkens back to something that I mentioned in my previous video. The multi-gem fusion Fluorite mentioned that she was open to a relationship with more gems if she found the right gem. There is a possibility that Jasper will end up being that right gem. Fluorite has this wise old grandma thing going on. Maybe Jasper will come to appreciate her wisdom. And even at some point after she becomes more friendly with the crystal gems, go to Fluorite to try to understand the appeal of fusion, because even though she obviously desires fusion, she also doesn't seem to be able to articulate why. Maybe Jasper will get to know the individual components of Fluorite, either through her interactions with Fluorite herself or by Fluorite defusing and introducing them to her. Maybe Fluorite and Fluorite's components will become something of a support network for Jasper as she is reforming her character, and eventually she will decide to become part of that relationship. And while this desire to fuse, this desire to be part of a fusion, this overall desire to form a long-lasting, meaningful relationship doesn't necessarily extend to a desire for a romantic relationship, that doesn't mean it doesn't, and that doesn't mean that it couldn't evolve to that point. This last one I think is the longest of long shots at this point, but I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility. Jasper seems jealous of fusion, she seems to desire fusion, she seems to long to have the kind of relationship that fusion can bring, and Fluorite is a fusion who, aside from maybe Garnet, probably knows the most about fusion of any character introduced in the show so far. It does make a certain amount of sense. But as per usual, I'd like to know, what do you guys think of this theory? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. Either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.